and welcome to the Tuesday plenary session for Wisconsin Water Week. This is our second day of a week-long educational program related to all things water. And today we are focusing on lakes, rivers, wetlands, watersheds, pretty much anything related to water bodies. And we're pleased today to have some great people joining us for this plenary talk. I'm going to quick introduce one of my colleagues who I work with very closely in the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, Carol Schall. He and I go back now over 10 years, I think, collaborating on lake projects related to the grants. And he's always been a great supporter of our annual conference. So I'll turn things over to Carol.
Thank you, Eric. And good morning, everyone. Thanks for attending today's lunchtime plenary for Wisconsin Waters. I've enjoyed being a part of the partnership conventions for over 25 years, but this one's really special, the way the partnership has endeavored to not just pull off a virtual convention, but really knock it out of the park with an outstanding week-long event celebrating Wisconsin waters. So I'm very proud of Wisconsin's water community today, and I'm equally proud to welcome our first plenary speaker, DNR Secretary Preston Cole, to his first Wisconsin Lakes and Rivers Partnership Convention. Appointed by Governor Tony Evers in 2019, Wisconsin DNR Secretary Preston Cole directs statewide programs for environmental protection, natural resource management, outdoor recreation, and law enforcement with an emphasis on diversity and service excellence. Prior to joining DNR, Secretary Cole was operations director for the Milwaukee Department of Public Works, where he led the waterworks team. Secretary Cole also served as a member of the Water Council, headquartered in Milwaukee next to the world's largest freshwater system. In 2019, Secretary Cole was inducted into the Milwaukee Business Journal Hall of Fame and recently was named one of Wisconsin's 51 most influential Black leaders. Please give a warm welcome to Secretary Cole.
Thanks, Carol. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. Absolutely excited to be here. It's the first time that I've been in front of this group. And given the fact we have so many people on from the Wisconsin DNR, it just tells us all that the importance of the work that we have before us. And so my staff, whether they are fisheries biologists, conservationists, of course, folks who do the research around keeping our water safe, keeping our water drinkable, because right now we are being challenged in a myriad of ways, and I will certainly be getting into those. And as I begin, just want to remind us, these are powerful times in many ways for all of us. But I just want to reiterate the importance of the natural resources that we have in the state of Wisconsin and make sure that you are well aware of the impacts that your work has on clean water. 32,000 miles of rivers and streams, 15,000 lakes, 5 million acres of wetlands, 800 miles of Great Lakes shoreline, 190 miles of Mississippi River shoreline, and of course, 2 quadrillion gallons of groundwater. And it's our efforts, our collaborations together, that we begin to make sure that we do the requisite work, keep these waters and streams safe. And again, when I landed into the DNR in 2019, we kicked off Governor Evers' mandate, which is the year of clean drinking water. And consequently, 2020 is the year of clean drinking water. 2021 is the year of clean drinking water. And that's where we find ourselves. So well into the future, we're going to be the year of clean drinking water because our work does not stop. Because the challenges that are facing us today require our full attention, a science-based program that gets at the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And again, pivoting towards the focus that we have in the Wisconsin DNR as it relates to clean water, PFAS mitigation is at the top of our list. Nitrate reductions, of course, and as a future farmer of America, I can tell you that we stand with our rural partners and our urban partners to deal with lead service line replacements. And as you can tell, water, of course, colorless, odorless, but you can't replicate it. And because of that, we have to value what we have, and the work that you do will go a long way to valuing the water that we have and make sure that we have sustaining natural resources well into the future and take the continued steps to expand on our critical work. So the governor's budget proposes significant resources for monitoring and testing PFAS, including $20 million over the next 2 years for assistance and resources to local communities like Rhinelander, Marinette, Peshtigo, Superior, and others. We'll be also adding funding for fire departments to get rid of PFAS that they have stored in a room. You know, we had hoped that these chemicals were eligible for clean sweep programs, funding that's available by the EPA, but they're not. So we're going to lean in very heavily and take some of this chemical off the landscape and dispose of it properly. And again, we'll be hiring additional DNR staff to implement many of the recommendations from the PFAS Action Water Council and making sure that that work begins in earnest right after the budget. We know that shifting to nitrates, we know that pathogens and bacterial contamination and excess nitrates is a problem for drinking water and creates a wide range of health problems in Wisconsinites and those who visit here. The state's test results reveal more than 80,000 private drinking wells in Wisconsin have water unsafe to drink due to high nitrate levels. That's a travesty. Nearly 1 in 3 people in Wisconsin get their drinking water from private wells, which are largely unregulated in our country. That's why we will continue creating new rules for targeted performance standards in areas of Wisconsin that are most susceptible to nitrate contamination, where rural families are suffering the most. And who are we going to do it with? In partnership with our rural communities, our agriculture communities who've been at the table, who had a voice in our PFAS action plan. Consequently, when it comes to lead, there is no safe level to ingest. There's 200,000 lead service lines in 125 communities across the state of Wisconsin that provide drinking water to homes, schools, and businesses. But let me tell you, folks, we have to turn that ship around as it relates to lead laterals. Let's put people to work. We know we have these issues in 125 different communities around the state, rural, urban. We believe that this is part and parcel of a works program. Let's put people to work. You need 1 plumber and 2 or 3 laborers. We can begin doing that work in earnest, while at the same time providing meaningful work opportunities for those who are unemployed and underemployed. That makes sense. The good news is that we've created a new grant program with more than $60 million available to communities to remove lead service lines. And the time is now to start. After the budget, if this is approved, we will continue to begin in earnest. And we know that lead laterals in communities all across the state inhibit youngsters' learning abilities. But there's some technologies that are out there, blow molds into lead service lines where pregnant women reside that it may take years to get to their property. We know there's opportunities and new technology that are available merely for $3,000. It's like a balloon. You blow it through that lead lateral, it seals against the lead lateral and provides not 100% safety, but when you have children and pregnant women in homes, and it's going to take us years to get that work completed, this offers us a reliable satisfaction guarantee on reducing as much as we can for folks that live within that home. And we will continue to seek funds from the state legislature to help local communities respond more quickly to these threats and by these pipes that are located in these communities. We're tackling challenges with COVID right now. And of course, our hope is that we'll be back to normal sooner versus later. And because of that, we look forward to certainly working with folks who are attending this meeting, because you are partnerships. You are the folks on the ground that we count on. Because each and every year, we at the DNR want to build on the momentum from the previous year and for future generations to come. One thing I know for certain is that this pandemic will not last forever, but it's the spirit of the people that's in this room, on this call, and sustaining folks in the communities that require us to protect the natural resources of the state of Wisconsin. Now, I'll remind you that outdoor recreation, of which our parks saw a lot this year, It's almost a $10 billion industry. Will people come if the water isn't safe to drink? Will people come if we had contaminated rivers and streams and lakes? Will people continue to make their way to the state of Wisconsin? The work that you do is tied to the economy of the state of Wisconsin. Number 3 in the country relative to fishing licenses. We know that the value-added proposition in Wisconsin is our natural resources. In the 70s, when the EPA started, we had toluene on the PCBs in water, atrazine. We know how to clean this up, but we can't do it alone. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the 3,000 employees of the state of Wisconsin, thank you for your time, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Cole. We really do appreciate all that the Wisconsin DNR staff do for our lakes and rivers. We thank you for spending time with us this morning and checking in and sharing what's happening. This is great. I realize I didn't introduce myself. I'm Eric Olson. I'm the Director of Extension Lakes at Stevens Point in the College of Natural Resources. And we are funded, the Extension Lakes program is funded by the DNR, so they are clearly our direct partner. But we also rely heavily on the resources of the university to help us carry out our mission to educate lake associations and lake districts all around the state of Wisconsin. And it's my pleasure and honor to introduce our next speaker, Governor Thompson. Governor Thompson earned his bachelor's degree and law degree from the UW-Madison. He was elected to the Wisconsin Assembly in 1966 and became the minority leader in 1981. Then he was elected governor beginning in 1986, and then an unprecedented 4 terms being reelected. And that makes him the longest serving governor in Wisconsin history. And as governor, he remained committed to a strong university system, to faculty research, and the Wisconsin idea. He stepped down during his 4th term to become the Health and Human Services Secretary under President George W. Bush. And just last year, Governor Thompson was named interim system president for the UW system. And Governor Thompson is no stranger to this audience. He joined the Wisconsin Lakes Convention back in the 1980s and 90s and gave keynote talks as governor in 1988, 1994, 1997, and 1998. So I am pleased to welcome you back to this audience and to join the Lakes and River crowd. Thank you, Governor Thompson.
Well, thank you, Eric. It's first off, it's a delight to be introduced by you, and thank you for what you're doing at Stevens Point and for the Great Lakes and all the water resources that you're responsible for. I thank you, and I thank Secretary Preston Cole for his leadership in the DNR. And I'm going to say a few nice words about Marissa Jablonski when I introduce her, but that's got to wait because I want to say a few words about water and the great university system that I'm now very humbled but very appreciative of operating and running. I love being in front of your association. I don't know, 6 or 7 times when I was governor. I always had legislation that I signed into law, usually at your convention. I'm sorry because of the pandemic, you can't be together. And hopefully that in the future, we'll get rid of this insidious virus. And that's what I'm doing on the La Crosse campus today. But anyway, it's great to be here, and thank you all for what you're doing to improve the waterways, the groundwater, the lakes, the streams, the rivers, and of course the Great Lakes. I always tell people that Wisconsin is an island. We have Lake Michigan on our east, we got Lake Superior on our north, and the Mississippi River goes all the way down our western border, and Illinois is always floating. So Wisconsin is truly an absolute island here in midst of all the waterways. And I love the statistics that Preston Cole gave out, and they're exciting. I grew up in a small community of Elroy, population of 1,500. So small you call somebody, get a wrong number, and still talk for a half an hour. That's how small my community was. And I grew up on a farm with the Baraboo River going through it. So the Baraboo River was our mainstay. We didn't have any money, but we had cane poles, so we went down there and fished. I didn't catch many. That's why I got a fishing pond now. where I got lots of fish that I can catch anytime I throw a line in the water. And so it's a wonderful thing. But Wisconsin is blessed. We're blessed, you know, with 15,000 lakes. Minnesota brags about 10,000 lakes. We have 15,000. We have fish in ours. Big difference, you know. And that makes Wisconsin a leader and different and allows us, you know, to champion those like the good secretary is doing and like Marissa has dedicated her life to accomplish. The University of Wisconsin, I'm trying to change the Wisconsin idea for the better. The Wisconsin idea, you know, was set up to educate anybody and everybody in all corners of the great state of Wisconsin. That's the Wisconsin idea. But I have come in as president. Now I want to change that and expand it. Wherever there's a problem, I want to be able to have the University of Wisconsin be contacted first or second, and then come on in and help. Water is no different. We got groundwater, as the secretary knows, some of it is polluted. We got to find responsible and scientific solutions. And that, Marissa, I'm giving you a pledge. You got to get that taken care of. When we come back next year, no polluted groundwater in the state of Wisconsin. So that's your responsibility. But at the same time, you know, I wanted to do things differently. I've been always a person of change. And what I did is when I came in, I said, how can we lead Wisconsin? We had the pandemic. So I set up a situation where we set up testing sites all over in all of our colleges. Then the federal government recognized what great job we were doing. They gave us extra money and doses so we could set up community testing. And this past Friday, we did over 1 million tests from the University of Wisconsin, testing people. And today, we're down, ladies and gentlemen. I know there's 500 or 600, 700 people here, and I thank all of you for being here. We're down to, on our campuses, less than 0.5% people with positive infection. That's utterly amazing. And we were all, the state was up at 32, 36%. We're down to less than 0.5% on our campuses. And we are considered the safest and healthiest place to be. So if you want to be safe, go to a University of Wisconsin campus, because we have pretty much solved it. And then I decided, you know, we were having trouble with getting our healthcare workers were overworked. And so I decided to ask our nursing students and our healthcare students to go in and help the hospitals and nursing homes. And they did it. We gave them a $500 rebate on their tuition. And I got over 1,000 students working in hospitals and clinics and vaccinating. And I think that is what the university is for, is to be able to solve problems, be able to really help out. And then I sort of ordered it, but I wanted to become the vaccination center. And so we set up vaccination centers on all of our campuses. And the governor and I just opened up a vaccination center on La Crosse. We opened up one in the University of Oshkosh. We opened up one in the University of Green Bay. Next Thursday, I'm going to be at the University of Milwaukee opening up a vaccination center so we can vaccinate. Once again, we want to be able to solve problems and be the leader of that. And then the next thing is, we got in our budget a water initiative. Started out, headed up by the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, but all 13 campuses want to be involved in this water initiative. And I want the University of Wisconsin, and I want Marissa, you know, to solve all the problems with the polluted groundwater, but I want her to lead in this effort. And I want Wisconsin, when people think of water and water problems, where do they go? They go to the University of Wisconsin for solutions. And the water initiative is coming out of the university, and the governor is supportive. I think we got bipartisan support. I'm really excited about it. And I think we can set up the best water initiative possible. And in order to do that, you got to have an outstanding leader. And we went worldwide. And there was only one person that measured up, and that was Marissa Jablonski. She got her PhD in water engineering from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. She's taught or been involved as a consultant in 45 countries. Why 45 countries? Because they recognize her quality, her ingenuity, her intellect. And she came back to Milwaukee, and now she's going to take up our water initiative, and I know she'll just do an outstanding job. She's a water engineer. She also knows how to reduce the size of our plastic supply. She's an expert in that area, and she's got her education. She's taught in our high schools and grade schools, given speeches all over, and who better than somebody like that that's been educated at our university to run our water initiative. I cannot wait to meet her in person, to thank her and to tell her we're going to give her as much support as we can. She's got a big job in order to continue to promote clean water and make sure that our waterways and our lakes and our streams have plenty of fish so that even I can catch a fish. And so that all of us together can enjoy our beautiful water, our great natural resource that we have in the state of Wisconsin. And I couldn't be happier than to have Marissa Jablonski, a PhD in water engineering, take over the water initiative. I give you an individual who's outstanding and is going to lead the way for all of us. Marissa, thank you so very much and good luck.
Thank you so much, Governor Thompson. Those are very, very kind words. I really appreciate your time and attention towards the Freshwater Collaborative and the state of Wisconsin. And we're glad to see you. We're glad to see you today. And thank you so much, Secretary Cole, for being here. Those were exciting words, and for the letter of support from the DNR towards the Freshwater Collaborative as well. So we're really excited to collaborate with all stakeholders in the state as the Freshwater Collaborative moves forward. But it was wonderful to hear from you today. Thanks. And thank you to Wisconsin Water Week. It's exciting to be here and talk about the Freshwater Collaborative. I'm going to be sharing my screen so that we can learn about what is the Freshwater Collaborative as we are preparing to launch this bold new plan and initiative across the state of Wisconsin, specifically focusing on the UW University of Wisconsin system, but also engaging with communities, with private stakeholders, public entities, nonprofit organizations, policymakers, advocacy groups, and everyone else who uses water, which is everyone. So I want to start by reading this Indigenous water acknowledgement that was written for the Freshwater Collaborative by Dr. Margaret Newton, who's the director of the Electa Quinney Institute at UW Milwaukee. And just to bring us to our water space and to the state of Wisconsin, and acknowledge that as a system of universities in Wisconsin, we share stewardship of the land and water between the Michigami, the full system of Great Lakes, and Michizzibi, the Great Mississippi River, with the current sovereign nations of Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Ojibwa, Oneida, and Mohican people, along with the ancestors before them. Together, we commit to being connected to this space, increasing our knowledge of it, and transmitting that knowledge to future generations. Oops. So the Freshwater Collaborative, what is it? It's a partnership of Wisconsin's 13 public universities, and also connects with industry partners, local communities, policymakers, and advocacy groups, and nonprofit organizations. Our mission as the Freshwater Collaborative is to train the next generation of water professionals and to establish Wisconsin and grow Wisconsin as a global leader in water-related science, technology, and economic growth. As we move forward through these slides, you'll notice these photos either alongside or along the top on the banner. All of these have been given to us from the 13 universities around the state of Wisconsin. So it might be fun if you can identify which ones are from your area where you're sitting right now. The other thing I want to point out is our logo. We've created this logo to recognize that we're not just the Freshwater Collaborative of Wisconsin as one big droplet of water, but we are made up of 13 individual universities, and each of those 13 makes up the whole. So why water? As Secretary Cole and Governor Thompson explained, water is the future. Water is the fastest growing sector of the world's economy, and it's estimated that by 2035, only 14 years away, it will make up $800 billion of our economy, of our global economy. And UNESCO states that 78% of all jobs globally are water dependent. So you think about all of the work we do on climate change, urbanization, agriculture, commercial fishing practices, and other trends as they grow. As we continue forward, they will require an even greater number of skilled water professionals to innovate and tackle challenging problems. And why Wisconsin? Again, Secretary Cole and Governor Thompson discussed our amazing rivers and lakes and streams and shorelines that surround Wisconsin and are a part of Wisconsin. We have an extremely unique natural setting that makes it a perfect home for the Freshwater Collaborative. We also have diverse wetlands and significant groundwater assets that they mentioned. And it is a very important center for water across the nation and across the world. And here you can see a map of those 13 UW universities. It's worth mentioning that there are 26 campuses statewide and 13 universities. So the 13 public universities of Wisconsin are already home to strong water programs that cover diverse and crucial areas of study. These include some of the ones I just mentioned, and also water quality and safety, emerging contaminants, invasive species, infrastructure engineering and innovation, and watershed and ecosystem management, just to name a handful. These strong and diverse programs have traditionally been isolated, each operating largely within their own silo. And that's what we want to change as we move forward with the Freshwater Collaborative. To meet the challenges we face as a state, a nation, and a planet, we need to work together. From our individual strengths, we can create a powerful, interdependent, collaborative whole to really tackle grand water challenges. In the creation of the Freshwater Collaborative, there were 10 grand water challenges defined for the state of Wisconsin. And they really don't just encompass Wisconsin, but the region, the nation, and the world. And the Freshwater Collaborative, in our work, we hope to train the next generation of water professionals and leaders so that they may graduate and get jobs in order to tackle these challenges in their careers, whether that be in public policy, in industry, in nonprofit work, or anything else. The Freshwater Collaborative is focusing on 3 main grand water challenges in its first 2 to 4 years here. We are focusing on agricultural water management, fresh drinking water, and emerging contaminants. So what is the Freshwater Collaborative planning on doing? We plan to train tomorrow's water professionals with real-world skills that employers seek by working with industry to make sure that our curriculum is developed in a way that truly benefits the jobs that are tackling those 10 grand water challenges. We will be strengthening individual UW water programs by building interdependent networks and fostering innovation across the 13 UW universities. We will be attracting students not only statewide, but from across the country and beyond, in order that we don't compete for the same statewide students, but we really are a nationally and globally recognized program that's able to recruit students from all over in order to solve global water challenges as well. And ultimately, we hope to be creating jobs and expanding Wisconsin's take in the freshwater economy. We started in 2017 as representatives of water-focused programs from all 13 UW system partners came together to put together a preliminary plan that combines the unique strengths from each of the campuses. We announced the formation of the Freshwater Collaborative in 2019 and started working to become the most significant integrated multi-campus higher education program to meet the pressing needs of freshwater access and security. Later that year, the WEDC, the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, awarded the Freshwater Collaborative $670,000 to initiate basically my office and the organization to move forward. And this was doubly matched by UW system funds of $1.4 million to start our initial phase and our grants program. We have already supported research projects and collaborations at more than 12 of our partner campuses, linking them with government agencies and also private industries. Just so everyone on this call knows, we do have a small grants program that I just defined that has 5 tracks. And these tracks are promised to grow the Freshwater Collaborative programming. So track 1, we will be supporting summits and working groups in order to really grow collaborations and thought partners across Wisconsin. Track 2, we've been supporting strategic research to push forward those grand water challenges and tackle some of those emerging contaminants, water quality issues, and agricultural management concerns. Track 3 is really being used to develop collaborative curriculum across the 13 universities. This is to benefit undergraduate students as they enroll and are able to move across Wisconsin while still having a home campus. Track 4 includes research experiences for undergraduate students. So this is where undergraduate students may be studying at one of the 13, perhaps they're at La Crosse, and they do a summer research program across the state, maybe at Superior. Then they present their poster and their research at the event in Madison at Research in the Rotunda in early spring. So this is really to create these collaborative discussions and this growing water network across the state. It's already had huge success over the last couple of years. And track 5 is creating training programs that are interinstitutional. We've supported something at Oshkosh that brings students from all 13 campuses to do hands-on engineering and biological research work right on the Fox River. It's very exciting. But all of these tracks are growing, and we're looking to continue our support as the program grows. To date, we have funded and benefited undergraduate and graduate students with hands-on experience in lab and field testing. They've studied invasive species, emerging contaminants, agricultural runoff, microplastics, surface and well water quality, algal blooms, and groundwater conservation. And we are now building a statewide interdependent educational programming network that we plan on beginning to open up to undergraduate students in fall of 2022. So this will include customizable undergraduate degree programs that allow students to enroll in courses at multiple UW campuses. So students may enroll, they'll have a home campus, but then will benefit from coursework that will be virtual and in person across the state. So they may choose programming that is regional, perhaps a groundwater program in Western Wisconsin, or they may choose something that is topic specific, like Great Lakes studies that would bring them to Milwaukee, possibly Parkside, Green Bay, and Superior. So we're looking at all sorts of programming that is sure to be enticing and draw students from all over the nation and the world. We plan on offering majors, minors, and certificate programs to allow for deep dives in specific topics with field opportunities at multiple campuses. And most importantly, and probably my favorite, is we're going to offer transformative hands-on student experiences at different campuses throughout the year so that students can come to different parts and different campuses, get to know professors and researchers, and then practice what they're learning in the field in order to better apply them, both in internships that we will help them grow and connect with, and also career and job opportunities in industry, government, and nonprofits and communities. As part of our new phase, growing the Freshwater Collaborative, we have begun a public awareness campaign that includes a new website. So we hope that you visit us at freshwater.wisconsin.edu. And if you're interested, please visit the Contact Us page and sign up for our digital newsletter. It'll help you know when we are planning events, what we've been up to, how we're planning on moving forward, and everything that is happening in this really exciting startup phase of the Freshwater Collaborative. It's a quarterly newsletter, so we won't bombard your inbox too often, but it'll help you stay connected. And of course, you can always visit us on social media. We have a presence on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. With state funds, as Governor Thompson mentioned, the Freshwater Collaborative has been included in Governor Evers' budget, and we are hoping to get the $9 million that has been included. So with those funds, our plan for the next 5 years is to recruit 400 new undergraduate students studying water science across the state, and 150 new graduate research students, 26 new faculty to bolster and grow those interdependent programs. And this will include researchers and water professionals and staff to support the programming for those students. In the long run, we also hope to be involved in the creation of new jobs across the state. With the initial funding, we're hoping for at least 200 new jobs. We couldn't do this without all 13 UW system campus partners. So a big thank you to all who have contributed ideas for growth, time and effort, and of course the images for this presentation. And I just want to thank you for your time and remind you one more time, please visit us on freshwater.wisconsin.edu, sign up for our digital newsletter, and please reach out if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
Okay, thank you, Marissa. We do have some questions from the audience that I want to relay to you. One of them, as you probably are aware, in the last couple of years, the state extension service has been folded into UW-Madison. So now it's a division of UW-Madison. How do you see local extension offices playing a role potentially in the Freshwater Collaborative? How do we get out, make sure that it's not just those campuses, but also into the counties?
That's a terrific question. We have been, so the Freshwater Collaborative has been speaking with extended campus quite in depth about their programming and how not only they can benefit us, but how we can benefit them. Their model that they use is a collaborative model, and it is something that benefits the entire state. And I believe that not only through extended campus, but also conservation organizations that are in rural parts of Wisconsin and the counties, not just the cities across the state, can definitely impact the Freshwater Collaborative. And we can include not only field work and field studies, but also particular benefits to individuals and students there. So I hope this answers your question, but I think it's a good reminder to keep those contacts fresh and to continue conversations and collaborations across the state. Yes, thank you.
Kind of a related question to something you mentioned there is that a lot of the folks that we're talking to here are lake associations, lake districts, river organizations, watershed groups. I suspect that they're not really in line for grants or funding, but do you see maybe as people are developing maybe proposals or projects, does that collaboration matter? Are you looking for evidence that a local group is supporting what's being proposed?
Definitely. I think that the local support really impacts the power of the research and the collaboration and the work, right? I'm I'm an engineer by training, and most of my work has been in the field across the globe. And that's really where the learning happens. And so we can do, there's very, very high importance to research work and to field applications of that research. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we received a letter of support from the DNR earlier this year. And what I have great interest in sharing that letter with these lake and river associations and other conservation groups around the state to see if there's a way that we can really all sit at the table and organize our focus for this kind of work and create a stronger network and connections with the UW system, connecting to those local organizations that are wanting to connect with researchers and professors and students. I think it can only greaten our impact on the natural environment in a good way. So please, I highly encourage people to reach out, probably through that website link, and let's start a conversation. I'm very interested in that.
Great. I still have some more questions, so if you don't mind.
No problem.
Some of these are numbers questions, so that you might have to refer back to your notes.
Okay.
You mentioned the idea of growing the number of undergraduate positions and grad students that are currently in UW programs related to water. Do we have a sense of what the base is? How many are there now? And then what is the sort of like the percentage growth that you're looking at or you're proposing?
That's a great question. I believe, that's a great question. Have I done that comparison? I've looked at, and on the spot, am I going to be able to pull that up? Let me focus, since I can't remember the exact number. Let me spin it just a little and focus on, and I can get back to you, Eric, and send you that number if that's of interest, and we could send this the person who asked the answer, or we could figure out.
It is interesting though, right? That when you do that analysis of the whole system, I don't think there's a school within the system, like of the 13 universities and the comprehensive, that doesn't have a water related something, right?
Well,
did you find that?
All 13 have water related studies. All 13 have biology.
Right.
All 13 have something environmentally focused, or geology focused, or hydrogeology focused. So definitely all 13 are there. We do have the numbers for current, and then we set goals based on that. So what we're looking at is bringing state funds into these already existing programs, bolstering them, giving them more professors, more researchers, more staff that will enable them to handle more students. And then we are looking to recruit students from, like I mentioned already, across the state. Now we're hoping, right, we have WEDC funds, so we're hoping that the majority of the students that come to the Freshwater Collaborative stay in Wisconsin and help us. But I think another focus is that we're also looking at some of those students going home and with their studies that they've learned from the state of Wisconsin, and really applying their information across the nation and across the globe. As you know, we have water issues everywhere you turn. A lot of my work has been done in India. Karnataka and Tamil Nadu are really suffering right now because of low water levels. South Africa is really challenged, as is the southwest of the United States. And so all of these issues that we can work on in the state of Wisconsin can be applied slightly differently across the world. And so those percentages and those numbers are really, the other thing we're focusing on is bringing those out-of-state students to Wisconsin to really grow the learning for everyone.
Okay, one of the questions that's popular right now is if you can describe maybe your vision of how we might work with tribal partners and tribal nations. Maybe that even extends beyond just in Wisconsin, and think about the Great Lakes. Have you made connections with those communities, and where do you see that headed?
Yeah, that's a terrific question. So we have a handful of contacts in the tribal nations around the state of Wisconsin, specifically Dr. Sasanesa Jennings in UW system, who I've worked with and planning on continuing to work with, to reach out to tribal leaders in order to engage with the different nations that we may co-create some of this curriculum together. So one of the visions for the Freshwater Collaborative is that it's truly an interdisciplinary program as well. I've learned through my studies, as I'm sure many people on this call know and have also learned, that it's not just one specific, let's say, focus that will solve an issue. It's really looking at the issue from many different viewpoints and perspectives. And so what we're trying to propose is that we work with different people from all over the state, from every corner, and really co-create that curriculum together, so that we can be sure that students are engaging with understanding the complexity of the different populations working together. And I would say that that engagement with tribal nations is in its infancy, but we're hoping so much to grow it. And we're doing our best to reach out and make sure that we are we're taking the right paths forward. Thank you for that question. It's a great question.
Good. I have another question related to numbers. You talked about, and you mentioned that the funding initially is kind of through an economic development initiative, and you talked about 200 jobs being generated. Those aren't necessarily university jobs, right? This is something broader. You're thinking about like the water industry. Can you just describe that briefly?
Yeah. So in preparation for those funding coming to the Freshwater Collaborative, both the UW system and the WEDC funds, the Freshwater Collaborative did a study. I believe it was a professor at UW-Madison who actually did the study. They interviewed industry leaders and different industry that included water professions and water jobs. And one of the things that they found out was that many students who graduate with some experience in water and some, I guess, water studies, let's say, were not quite qualified enough to fill the job. And they were looking for more expertise in many different things, but depending on that student. One of the things that we also learned from this exact same information is that many of these organizations said we could use more water graduates. We need more people with a water view. And so these two things coming together really helped propel our pipeline to job program and working group that we inevitably want to feed our students into internships and career pathways in the water industry. So that's how. And so sure, there will be jobs created in the UW system, both professorships and staff and instruction and scientists, researchers. However, the 200 jobs that we're focusing on is hoping that if we build it, right, if we are able to train students who will graduate and then feed those jobs, that those companies can really hire the positions that they're looking to fill. I hope that makes sense.
Sure, that makes total sense. I have one last question and then we'll say thank you and we got to send people off to lunch. You mentioned that there's 7 focus areas and you sort of started out with maybe 1 or 2 of them. What's the timeline to sort of touch on all of them? And specifically, where does watershed restoration fit into, I think, the sort of the shorter medium-term plans?
Well, I come from a background of systems thinking. And so we are focused on the 10 grand water challenges. And we're focused on, we're focused on the agricultural management, water management. We're focused on safe drinking water, and we're focused on emerging contaminants. However, all 10 of them are important and completely interwoven with the water that we use as a population every single day. And so It's a great question about watershed management, because you can already see that that is completely interwoven with agricultural runoff, for instance, would include an issue of watershed management. Emerging contaminants would include watershed management, right? We've been talking in the news about forever chemicals and PFAS. And so this all has to do with everything. It's all intertwined. It's in a system. So I believe that we are asking for funds in 3 biennial budgets. This first biennial budget is really, that's the $9 million from the Wisconsin legislature to push forward those 3 grand water challenges. There's 3 or 4 in there that we really want to focus on. And it's very population focused and based. What are the direct impacts, the biggest issues in Wisconsin today that we are dealing with on a daily basis throughout the state? And the work that we do, I expect that we'll bring in, if there's 10 total and we're looking at 3 or 4, it'll be another 3 or 4, and then the remainder, right, over the 3 biennial budgets. However, I know I can speak for the steering committee in saying that when we were looking at research grants and even collaborative curriculum grants, we'd never said no to a grant just based on its focus, right? It was, yeah, and look at this watershed management issue. This is directly tied to the other grand water challenges that we need to tackle. So it's kind of one of the things that I've had this position for about 10 months. It's a brand new initiative, as we described. And it's really, which is first, right? The cart or the horse? It all has to happen at the same time. So these are terrific questions. And thank you again, Eric, for inviting me to be here and for making space for the Freshwater Collaborative. We're really, really excited to be launching this new program, and we look forward to working with everyone on this call in the future.
Yeah, and I'll just make one more plug that Marissa is joining the panel at 1:30. That's going to be discussing sort of the big wicked water challenges. So just as she was indicating, you can't just focus on one thing because there's so many different parts and moving pieces. So Deputy Secretary Todd Ames from the Wisconsin DNR will also be there, and a number of Wisconsin leaders. So please check that out at 1:30. I want to give you a warm Wisconsin Water Week thank you for joining us and dealing with our remote circumstances. But it's great just to see the university trying to string things together and really try to tackle some big challenges. So thank you. And thank you to the audience for sticking around. We realize this shortens your lunchtime. Hopefully you get to grab something, step outside. Those afternoon sessions will begin at 1:30. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks again.